everyone. Welcome to the first episode of In the Shadows Yet Essential. My name is Dr. Kirsten Knowles, and I'm so excited that you took the time to stop on this video to watch and learn a little bit more about biblical figures that are in the shadows and what we can learn from them. Today's supporting character is Naomi, and Naomi is found in the book of Ruth in the Old Testament. We are introduced to Naomi, whose name means pleasant, during a famine which caused her and her husband to move from Judah, which means praise, to a place called Moab. Now, I'm going to go over some meanings of names in this lesson today, so bear with me. It's all going to make sense as we go through it. So Naomi was married to Elimelech, and they had two sons named 𝐿, which means sickly, and Mahlon, which means invalid. Side note, please be careful what you name your children. It is important to understand the history of Moab to understand our first lesson. Moab is named after Lot's son and grandson through his incestuous relationship with his daughter. It is safe to say that Moab carried the consequences or judgment due to its origin. The first thing that happened to Naomi was that her husband died. After he died, her sons took Moabite wives, Orpah, who was married to 𝐿, and Ruth, who was married to Mahlon. So they lived in Moab for 10 years until tragedy struck yet again when both 𝐿 and Mahlon died. So Naomi left Judah, a place of praise, due to fear of a famine, and moved to Moab, lost her husband, she lost her sons, and to make matters worse, she did not have any grandchildren. Here's the first lesson we learned from Naomi. In seasons that appear to be famine, don't make hasty decisions out of fear. Naomi left a place called praise, stepped into Moab, a land that carried consequences and judgment, and the costs were devastating. After the death of her sons, Naomi hears that God has visited his people back home. Yes, the same Judah that she left. She decided to return and leave her daughters-in-law in their homeland of Moab. This is the part of the story that most people want to start at when they talk about Ruth and Boaz. However, I really want to focus on the underdog, Naomi, in this story. Naomi says that the hand of the Lord has gone against her, and she blames her disobedience for the fate of her daughters-in-law. But despite all of these feelings, Ruth refuses to leave Naomi. When Naomi returned to Bethlehem in Judah with Ruth, the Bible says the whole city was stirred and emotionally moved or excited. They even asked, "Is this Naomi?" But instead of responding to her name Naomi, meaning the pleasant one, she tells them to call her Mara, which means bitter, because Naomi was bitter from what she went through in Moab. Here's my second point. Don't allow a past season of pain to make you reject the embrace God prepared for you when you return to your place of grace. Naomi carried her bitterness into a place where the Lord had provision for her. If you stepped out in disobedience and returned to your place of grace, do not allow the pain in an old season to cause you to miss out on the embrace and love that is waiting for you in a place of provision. So let's move on. Naomi's husband was a relative of Boaz. So it was Naomi's connection to Boaz that allowed for Ruth, the main character, to seek favor with Boaz. Naomi not only had the connection, but the wisdom and the strategy needed to wrap Boaz around Ruth's finger. I don't want to go into too much detail, but you can read Ruth chapter 3 to get the full scoop and to understand. But it was Naomi who taught Ruth how to woo Boaz. It was Naomi who told Ruth what to do to get Boaz's attention. It was Naomi who told Ruth to be patient after she returned from a date with Boaz, because Naomi knew that Boaz would not rest until he came to a conclusion about Ruth that same night. In today's language, Naomi pretty much told Ruth not to text Boaz first, but wait for him to text her first. Can you imagine if Ruth did not follow this instruction like many of us single women do? Naomi was the GOAT. So if she did not provide this wisdom, we would not have all of these sermons and movies about Ruth and Boaz and all of these singles conferences. I'm just saying. So here's my third lesson about Naomi. You may feel unseen today, but your connection, wisdom, and strategies could shape destinies and build legacies for generations to come. I'm going to come back to this point, so let's just put a pin on that real quick. So I'm almost done. So Ruth and Boaz are married, and Ruth has a son. Actually, the Bible says the Lord gave her conception and she bore a son. Isn't it interesting that while married to her husband in Moab, she could not get pregnant? Okay, I know I said this was not going to be about Ruth, but I really do believe that this is for someone. I'm going to put a shameless plug right here. When Ruth was married to a man whose name meant invalid, and they lived in a place of judgment called Moab, she could not produce. If you are not producing, check your connections and your location. I'm going to leave that right there for someone and move on. So the Bible then says in Ruth chapter 4 that the women in the country said to Naomi, not Ruth, "Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day without a redeemer. May his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age." Wait 1 minute. How is it that Naomi, the character in the shadows, is getting the praise that rightfully belongs to the birth mother? Wait, there's more. So the Bible says Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap and became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood said, and named him rather, "A son has been born to Naomi." Wait, y'all, this really confused me. We always hear about Ruth, right? Even having the whole Bible book named after her. But the women of Judah are saying that Naomi has a son? Here's my last point. When you return to your place in God, God always finds a way to restore what you have lost and put you back in your rightful place, to the point that those around you will have no choice but to acknowledge your value and contribution. Remember when I said I was going to come back to to point 3, where we were talking about building legacies for generations to come? Well, here it is. Naomi was the nurse to Obed, Ruth and Boaz's son. Obed was the father of Jesse, who was the father of King David, the direct lineage to Jesus Christ. Naomi's wisdom, strategy, and obedience put her in the right place for a divine setup to bring forth the Redeemer, Jesus Christ. So if today you feel like Naomi, overlooked, maybe a little bitter, or empty-handed, let her story remind you. The Bible says that all things work together for good. God is setting you up for restoration, purpose, and legacy. God bless you. Hi, I'm Dr. 𝐾𝐨𝐼 Knowles. Along with teaching the power found in the shadows, I'm an advocate for all types of education, especially early literacy. That passion inspired my children's character building series for children ages 4 through 8, perfect for families to read together and for kids to enjoy on their own. Each story promotes social emotional learning and teaches a fruit of the spirit. Whether it's Kaylee learning patience, Alyssa learning to manage her emotions, or Liam discovering his superpower, I wanted these stories to offer both mirrors and windows. Mirrors so children can see themselves, and windows so they can understand others who may live or look differently. Real life is at the heart of this series. Coy is a child with albinism and his friend has a prosthetic leg. Jonathan finds joy as he supports his sister with type 1 diabetes. Aiden learns faithfulness through his friendship with Lily, who uses a wheelchair. Alana, a vibrant girl with vitiligo, learns gentleness with her classmates. And Tristan practices kindness with his autistic brother Owen. Each book also includes reading comprehension and critical thinking questions to spark meaningful conversations and deepen understanding. Purchase the series at farmerspublishinghouse.com or on Amazon by searching Dr. 𝐾𝐾𝐨 Knowles.